Waco judge who was disciplined for refusing to marry gay couples. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Maria Todd. As Texas races to become the nation's data center capital, who should pay for the power grid upgrades needed to support that growth? Energy expert Ed Hers joins us to discuss.
Plus, a Houston filmmaker turns the story of her father's journey from India to a Texas gas station into an award-winning documentary about family, identity, and the immigrant experience.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870. Or you can email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. President Trump suddenly canceled his plans to sign bipartisan legislation intended to lower housing costs for Americans. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports Trump says he won't sign until the Senate passes a sweeping elections bill.
The president canceled the signing ceremony, which was to be held on Capitol Hill, less than 2 hours before it was set to take place. Trump wrote on his Truth Social website that passing his Save America Act is a national emergency and needs to be the priority. Trump has repeatedly pressured Republican leaders in the Senate to force through the legislation that would add new voter ID requirements and proof of citizenship rules. It's just the latest example of growing friction between Trump and Senate Republicans, who the president has complained are moving too slowly and not aggressively enough. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has said publicly that the Senate does not have the votes, but Trump says leaders should then eliminate the Senate filibuster to pass the measure. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
Several states held primaries yesterday. In New York, Mayor Zohran Mamdani successfully backed 3 candidates running for the U.S. House, including 2 who are also Democratic Socialists. In South Carolina, President Trump had endorsed both candidates who ran in the Republican primary for governor. The state Attorney General Alan Wilson was the winner. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in the Middle East for talks with Arab leaders. NPR's Aya Betrawi reports Rubio met with the leader of the United Arab Emirates and next goes to Kuwait and Bahrain.
All 3 countries host U.S. troops and have been targeted by Iranian missiles and drones, including during the past months of ceasefire. But they weren't consulted on the U.S.-Israeli decision to launch the war. Now Rubio tells reporters in the UAE that he's in the Gulf to listen, quote, more than we are to talk.
We want to hear their thoughts, especially in the aftermath of this weekend in Switzerland, and make sure that their views are taken into account in every decision that we make, because they're our partners.
That meeting in Switzerland between the U.S. and Iran concluded with the U.S. temporarily lifting oil sanctions as Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz. Rubio's regional tour does not include a stop in Israel, which is opposed to ceasefires with Iran and in Lebanon. Aya Betrawi, NPR News, Dubai.
Investors are waiting for fresh signals today about the artificial intelligence boom. NPR's Scott Horsley reports they're hoping for a rebound after a sell-off in tech stocks yesterday.
Computer chip maker Micron is set to report quarterly earnings later today, and investors will be on the lookout for any signs about the staying power of the AI boom. Micron shares were hammered on Tuesday, but they're still way up since the beginning of the year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average wants to capture a bit more of the AI frenzy. The people who manage the index are adding Google's parent company next week. Verizon will drop out of the Dow to make way for Google's parent Alphabet. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. A new poll from the Texas Politics Project shows that Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton and Democratic candidate James Tallarico are neck and neck in the race for U.S. Senate. Paxton led Tallarico 43 to 42% with a 3.5% margin of error, according to the survey. The last poll, released in April, showed Tallarico with a commanding 8-point lead. The vast majority of Republican voters signaled that they would support Paxton despite a runoff with incumbent Senator John Cornyn. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo plans to build a new $300 million agriculture complex off Highway 288. Rodeo officials stressed that they're not leaving NRG Park, but some new rodeo activities will be housed at the new facility, which includes a 5,000-seat arena. Rodeo Houston president and CEO Chris Bowman says NRG Arena is near the end of its life.
This is an expansion, not a relocation. That's the way we see it. We think by investing in this property a couple of miles away, that it actually frees us up to do more at the park.
The facility will be entirely private funded. It is expected to open by 2029. In sports, the Astros took a 9-7 decision in extra frames last night. Houston wraps up their visit to Toronto tonight. First pitch is at 6 o'clock. And a pair of UH Cougars are headed to the NBA. Kingston Flemings played one season with the Cougars, leading the team in scoring, assists, and steals. Chris Senyak Jr. is also headed to the NBA. He's going to Boston. Taking a check of your weather, it's going to be sunny today with a high of 95. We'll see a heat index around 105, so do be careful out there. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 75 degrees. Right now, mostly cloudy, 88 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from Strawberry.me, whose career coaches offer professional support to help people get unstuck, gain clarity, and move forward, whether advancing in a current role or choosing a new direction altogether. More at strawberry.me/public.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello there, Houston. Ernie Manous with you, and sitting in the guest host chair for her second day in the role, the one, the only, Maria Todd. Hello.
Like I could live up to that intro. Hello.
You better. You got 2 hours to prove me right then.
All right, I'll do my best.
Yes. How are you doing today? Did folks listen to you yesterday? Did you get some feedback?
Yes, I had a friend that was so sad he missed the James Tallarico, Jasmine Crockett story. Yeah. I got 10 minutes of his opinion on it, and I text him the number today. I said, call in because we're going to have political talk about some other topic today.
Yeah, well,
so
it's
hopefully
funny.
He gets through.
We forget, I think we all do, that there are people listening all the time to what we say. And not like they're following what we say, but they hear us. And
right.
So the other night I went to an event and I had talked about how I hurt my finger and I have a little brace on. And the number of people that wanted to come up and see the Band-Aid I was talking about, I was like, what are you talking? Oh my, you were listening to the show. I have to remember that when I talk, people can hear me. It's not all inner dialogue.
And they want to know. They want to know.
Well, if you want to know what it looks like, the little metal brace is on my finger, but you can't see the Band-Aid because it's clear. And I think it's working. I think it's healing my finger.
It's supposed to help, your fingertip.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be some kind of weird, new, cool Band-Aid. There's a little gel on it and does this whole thing. And we'll see. I'll let you know. If you see me sometime and I don't have all my fingers, you'll know it didn't work.
Oh, my gosh.
But let's hope. And then I'm also dealing with this whole, I've been complaining about this for a while, too, my root canal. Like, I've had perfect teeth my whole life, and finally I had a fracture in a tooth, and it got infected up into the gum and all this. It's just been a nightmare. So yesterday I was getting my permanent crown put on.
How did that go?
Didn't match my other teeth. Your teeth are kind of a white, gray, translucent. They're not yellowed, so the one we picked doesn't match. Now I've got to go to the lab and have them match my tooth color.
It's an ordeal getting a crown.
I shouldn't have chewed. I shouldn't have chewed ice. That was my big problem. I'm always chomping ice, and they always warned me, don't do that. It's going to crack your tooth. I'm like, no, I can do it. Now I'm 107 years old, and I chew one piece of ice, and boom, my tooth crumbles. That's what I'm dealing with.
Oh, my gosh.
Busy day. Got anything excited going on tonight?
Do I have anything exciting going on tonight? No, but I'm going to lunch with a friend of mine tomorrow that works for the Houston Fire Department, and we always have a blast laughing at God knows everything. The people that call fire engines for taxis.
Really?
Yes. They call, and you show up, and they think, like an ambulance shows up.
Right.
And so they get in the ambulance, and they're like, oh, wait. And when they get at a stoplight, it's like they want to hop out and go to the zoo instead of go over into bed and talk. It's crazy.
I had not heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
I will
do
say I'm
that.
surprised the number of times ambulances have visited my house to help with my mom, like to take her to the hospital and stuff, that I really don't know the crews on a first-name basis yet. I would think there's always somebody else there, so I don't know. We got to get a better schedule.
There are special firefighters that they send to different things. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Like the parade firefighters. Oh, the handsomest men, the youngest, strongest. Now, if you need something like your house is actually burning down, it's an old fatherly grandfather that comes that can barely lift a hose.
I think you're looking at them differently in the different situations you're in.
Maybe
in a
that's what
parade,
it
you
is.
have a chance to like cruise the crowd and find the firefighter you want. When your house is burning down, you're like just looking at what's there.
I'm just happy you have a hose.
Yes.
That
I'm
didn't come
gonna
out right.
leave that
Anyway,
alone.
yes.
Anyway, we've got a very full show today. I'm very excited about what's on today's show. Ed Hers was here with us last week, and we wanted to talk about data centers. But right before we went on air, everything was going on with that memorandum of understanding with Iran and all of the power in the Straits of Hormuz. And so we got totally sidetracked into that conversation. So he's back today to talk about these data centers and how much energy they take.
Yes.
And who should be paying for that.
Definitely stay tuned for that, and definitely call in for that too, because I'd like to hear your questions as well. I have questions. I'm sure Ernie has questions.
But we want to hear yours. 713-440-8870. It's always important. Just got in a comment from my British computer guy, which reminds me, over on YouTube, we have a very active group of folks that join us all the time, and we call them our HuTubers.
Like it?
You like it? And so the comment that came in was, Ernie probably always wants a crown, just not for his tooth. Oh, that's probably very true. I would wear a crown if I had
You
one.
would wear a crown if you had one.
It'd be fun.
And I'd take a picture of you.
Yeah, my mom has a tiara. She has she had found this old, I had done a story on an art car, and the woman glues all of these like costume jewelry things to the car. And so going through the bin, she said, take something. And there was a little tiara there. And I took it home and I gave it to my mom. And she was wearing it around for a while and it kind of crumbled. So on Amazon, I bought like a couple of these other tiaras.
Yeah.
Oh my, she wears them. She wears them around her neck like a choker. And the point is like holding her head. I'm like, Mom, that can't be comfortable. She's like, it's my necklace. I'm like, okay.
Leave her alone. She is doing what makes her happy.
She is.
Every woman should have a crown.
On the show today, the Gas Station Attendant, a film that's making waves, and we're going to have the filmmaker and the Texas group that's bringing it, the Houston group that's bringing it to the MFA. Later on in the show, what I'm really fascinated about is we often talk about the different states and how we look at things politically and socially, and we often think red state, blue state. Well, the professor we have on is actually going to point out how it goes much deeper than that, according to their research, and he has this concept of 11 nations, and it was how we were founded and what groups we affiliate with, and that the divisions we see in our country are actually 400 years old. And
Interesting.
It's really fascinating, and it may help us understand then how the political system works too in today's day and age, and where we can find the things that unite us that we think divide us. So anyway, that's all coming up on today's show. But as I like to say, we start with the headlines. So Maria, take us in.
Well, the state's Judicial Oversight Agency must pay $640,000 to a Waco judge who was disciplined for refusing to marry gay couples. That's according to a Travis County court. Now, Travis County Judge Maya Guerra Gamble ruled last Tuesday the State Commission on Judicial Conduct cannot investigate, sanction, or discipline McLennan County Justice of the Peace Diana Hensley for refusing to officiate same-sex weddings because of her Christian beliefs, regardless of whether she continues performing marriage for opposite-sex couples. Now, she was awarded $10,000 in compensatory damages, and the $630,000 is her attorney's fees. In an interview with Kira News, Hensley said she feels her case has protected Texas judges' religious liberty rights. Quote, I think the agency overstepped itself, and what we saw was their bias on the issue and not the law. Now, just so you know, the law in Texas is judges and justices of the peace are allowed but not required to officiate weddings. After the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case legalized gay marriage back in 2015 across the nation, some judicial officers chose to either officiate both gay marriages and straight marriages or no marriages at all. Now, Hensley, citing her Christianity, chose not to officiate any weddings, but then decided to perform weddings again in 2016, but for straight couples only. According to court filings, she referred some same-sex couples to a different judge or other nearby officiants. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe the judge is right or wrong? Call or text us now at 713-440-8870.
Always I got a lot of questions. But in this particular case, what I don't understand, and I always like to start at the place I don't understand, is that judges were allowed not to officiate weddings. And I thought that was part of the role of what they do. And so if that is inherent, that is part of their job, then it should have no basis on their own personal religious beliefs. If they are given the right to or not to perform weddings, which I think is odd, but that's what the story tells us it is, then either it's all or nothing, But to be able to cherry pick what you do and what you don't do based on your own religious beliefs, I have a problem with that. I think now, that's saying, if the rule is you can do it or not do it, then it's all or nothing. But I think that we have to follow the law of the land. You are an elected official. Once you are elected, you have to follow those laws. We all have to follow the laws of the land. But if it is your duty to do the work that you are hired to do, be it through election or just being hired, you have to perform the task. If you don't agree with that, then step out of that job. That's not the job for you. That's, I think, where I fall on that. I may be missing something in this story.
That's a very interesting point.
Yeah, just...
If that's your job, do your job.
Yeah, if you don't like it, just find another job.
Yeah.
713-440-8870. What do you think about this? My British computer guy, again, he's our number one commenter, so you'll often hear us quote what he has to say. I'm sorry, if you're hired to do a job and part of that job is officiating weddings, then you should do their job. Your job. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Once again, my British computer guy and I are aligned in our beliefs.
You guys are in lockstep.
And that's not to say, and here's where I'll get maybe a little controversial. I'm okay if you think it's wrong. That's fine. That's your own belief system. And I support people to have their own belief systems and that the government can't tell you what to believe, what your religious doctrine should say or support. And if you feel that goes against my belief system, I'm fine with you feeling that way. But you can't work in a public job doing a job and say, I can't honor somebody else's situation or request. Pick another job. Go do something that doesn't offend your belief system. Now, I'm sure there's people that are going to argue back with me, and I'd love to hear from them right now, that then you're discriminating against their beliefs and that you can't do that. But I think it's different than in private practice. You're not telling someone they can't have the beliefs they want or that they can't find a place where they can support their own beliefs. But a government position, a government job has certain restrictions to it, and you have to represent all the people. It's also like, this sounds a bit highfalutin, but what we do here, there are certain rules and regulations and respect that we have to give to the fact that we sit behind these microphones and we have a responsibility to the full community.
Right.
I may not agree with every story, but if it's in front of me as news and I have to share it, I will share it. We're in a little different place. They want us here to give opinion and thoughts and to start conversation with the audience. So that makes it slightly different. But we have a responsibility in our job. And if I don't feel I can do that, I should go find another job that fills my soul and makes me happy. Luckily, all of you fill my soul and make me happy. And right now it's 713-440-8870. We'll hear from Alvin in the 3rd Ward. Alvin, talk to me. What's on your mind?
Ernie, I agree with you 100%. Look, sometimes judges get it wrong, and in this case, both judges got this wrong. By way of the Supreme Court, the government should not favor or promote any religion, period. And if we had the strict constructionists, as they claim they are, they would have actually saw that this woman was in the wrong. Essentially, we have in this government, the only thing that ties us together is the Constitution. We have different races, people live different lifestyles, etc. And so if we can't have a commonality as it relates to keeping your religion out of the administration of government, we're going to have the problems that we see around the world. We're going through essentially the dark ages right now. Hopefully, at some point, we will get back to the light. That's my comment.
Alvin, thank you for calling.
Yes.
And remember, keep listening to the show because I think later on in the show, you may want to call in when we have the guest on who's going to talk about the divisions in our country because that plays into this very conversation. It's how we see ourselves and who we are. And then understanding ourselves as a united country. Our name, as much as you hear people say the name of our country is America, it's not. It's the United States of America. It's a bunch of different states coming together to be a nation. America is the continent we're on, but we are the United States, the USA. So I just want to remind people of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Alvin, for calling and sharing that with you. What are your thoughts? Join in. We like to know if you think that I missed the mark on this story and you feel that, yes, this county judge needed to get this reward and that they were damaged and the reputation was damaged and that they should pay the lawyers, give me a call. I'd love to hear that side of the argument. 713-440-8870. In a lighter story, let's go on to, if you look at your scripts, I'm going to move you over to A3, which is not my next story, but it's your story. And I want to hear this story. So take me into this.
This is my fault. Odds are, if you're on a dating app, I'm not. I was a long time ago. But anyway, you may have stretched the truth about yourself at least once or twice. Okay, maybe a lot. If this sounds like you, there's a name for this behavior. It's called kittenfishing. Kind of like its more extreme cousin, catfishing. Kittenfishing more or less tends to end in disappointment. It involves telling little lies about yourself on a dating app or in the early stages of dating in order to make yourself seem more attractive. Think lying about your height, maybe saying you're an inch or two taller than you really are, or maybe saying you weigh a little less than you do, or using an old edited photo of yourself. You may not be concocting an entirely fabricated person like catfishing, but you're not being totally honest either. Have you ever been kittenfished? Have you ever kittenfished someone else? Give us a call or a text, 713-440-8870.
Okay, when I first heard this, I thought, oh my God, who would do it? And then I started thinking about something I had recently done.
What is that?
And so it was Tom Holland's birthday.
Okay.
Spider-Man. And I've spent time with Tom, knew Tom. I wouldn't say he knows who I am, but I know who he is.
Okay.
And I had a photo of, it was his birthday, and I wanted to put up a picture for his birthday and be like, some celebrities that I like or know, I'll put up something on their birthday. So I put up the picture of him and I hugging, and I was not at my best fighting weight at that time. So I thought to myself, I'll put it through AI and I'll have it slenderize me a little bit so that I'll look better, like what you're talking about here. Not a lie. I went to post it and I saw online that now they're indicating this photo has been enhanced by AI. And I thought, if I put this picture up, everyone's going to think the part that was enhanced was the Tom Holland being in the photo with me, not the fact that I just brought in my waist a little. So I was like, no, don't do it. You got to be honest with what you're posting. So then I just cropped the picture to...
So it didn't show all that.
Yeah, cut off a little of my left flank so I looked more slender. But so I mean, there's tools out there that's blocking people from doing that now. So when you do enhance yourself, remember, if you post that, there may be a little warning underneath your picture that says this picture has been enhanced by AI. So keep that in mind. You had a story about this.
Yes, I do. Now, back in the day, I used to do Match.com, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but what I would do is I would always put up a picture of me looking less attractive than I do. And you go, why? Why would you do that? Yeah. Because I figured if someone would make a date with me with the bad picture, boy, wait till I showed up at lunch. I'd look fantastic.
Now, see, I take it the other direction. When I would look on these dating apps, if somebody looked really horrible, I would think to myself, that was the best picture they could find of themselves. How horrible do they really look?
Right.
Because I wouldn't think, like what you said, I would think nobody puts out a not great picture of themselves, especially when you're marketing yourself on an app like that. Have you been kittenfished? Do you kittenfish? I'm dying to hear about
Somebody's
this one.
making that bachelor's degree, a master's, or a doctorate.
Oh, that. You could just sweeten it a little bit.
Are you telling people that you went to a better school than you actually went to?
713-440-8870. Jeff from Spring is on the line, but I believe Jeff wants to take us back to the earlier story. Though I do want to know, Jeff, if you've ever kittenfished or been kittenfished. Welcome to the show, Jeff. What's on your mind?
Good morning. No, I've never been kittenfished. But back to the judge who turned down, didn't want to do gay weddings. That's her choice. But to me, the only people that are winning in this, it certainly wasn't her. She only got $10,000 in punitive damages. Her lawyers got $640,000 of our tax dollars. What kind of crap is that?
Yeah, Jeff, I hear you on that part of it. I do have to just say, though, if you're saying it's her choice, it is her choice what she believes. I believe it's not her choice to decide how she does a job where she is either elected or appointed to in a government space when it's dealing with all people in the community. But I do agree with you that, yeah, we talk about the money, the settlement she's getting, but they did say $630,000 of those dollars are going to legal fees. Thank you for calling, Jeff, and sharing with us. And I'm happy you were never kitten fished.
Hey, quick question for
sure.
you, Ernie.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the Lyle Lovett show?
I had a great time at the Lyle Lovett show. Quickly, just to fill people in, Lyle Lovett performed with the Houston Symphony recently, and Lyle was on the show that day, and I've known Lyle for a number of years, and because I've known Lyle, I can pretty much get into any one of his shows that I want to go see. And I will tell you, I thought his show with the Houston Symphony was one of the best times I've ever seen him on stage in the 30 years I've known him and seen him. And what did you think, Jeff? Were you there?
Yeah, I was 5 rows behind you. It was a great show.
Wasn't it wonderful?
Oh, yeah. He's my age. He's 68 or 69, whatever, and he's talking about dealing with his twins. That's full-on dad stuff there.
Oh, well, and I have to tell you, if he didn't sing a single song in an evening, just listening to his patter and his chat on stage would be enough to entertain me. He's a great entertainer. Jeff, thank you so much for calling. Next time we're in the same theater, reach out and say hi.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take a break right now.
Okay, I hope he has to see your crown and your finger.
Oh, yes. He'll have to see my crown. I don't have the crown. When we come back, though, Ed Hers, who doesn't want to see my crown or my finger, but he does want to tell us what's going on with these data centers and how much power are they using. That's coming up next right here on Hello Houston.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Get access to PBS Passport that lets you watch your favorite programs anytime you want. Support the programs you love and enjoy them on your own schedule with PBS Passport. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
On the podcast After the Flood from the Texas Newsroom and PBS's Frontline, we meet people who survived last year's floods in the Hill Country and those who lost loved ones, and we try to answer the questions they still have. After the Flood, out now. HPM Plus brings you the latest news and information from around the world and across the street. Trusted journalists keeping you connected by keeping you informed. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs and stay informed.
You can't tackle life's big challenges if you let the little ones get you down. That's why Houston Matters devotes the first Monday of each month to a sort of group moan session we call Houstonian Pet Peeves. It's a communal, cathartic experience, but not everyone can join us live at 9 a.m., and not every peeve occurs to you right then and there. That's okay. We welcome your gripes about life in Houston anytime at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Specs, celebrating the summertime heat with cold seltzers, ciders, canned cocktails, and more. Details at specs.com. Cheers to savings.
Support comes from the Grand 1894 Opera House presenting Beware of Short Texans, starring Jason Williams of Greater Tuna. The performance includes stories and characters drawn from Texas life and theater. July 11th, tickets at thegrand.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manous and guest host Maria Todd.
As Texas continues to see a boom in data center development, Governor Greg Abbott is calling on state regulators to make sure the costs of the new electric infrastructures aren't passed on to residential customers. Governor Abbott signaled a broader push to address the industry's impact on the power grid in a letter he sent to the Public Utility Commission of Texas last week. To discuss this and more, because I'm going to go into the and more in just a second. We're joined by Ed Hers, Energy Fellow at the University of Houston. Ed, welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
You were supposed to be on the show last week to talk about this very topic, and just as you were walking in, the president talked about his memorandum of understanding. Since then, a lot has happened to that. We're going to get to data in 1 second, but there was big news today again because supposedly, I don't understand what's going on with the memorandum. It seems as though it was on, it's off, it means something, it doesn't mean anything at all. And then what happened with oil prices today?
The WTI prices dipped down to $70. Actually, at one point was below $70, which is really surprising. The industry people, the chief operating officer for EOG said that, I expect prices at $80. By year end. The current CEO of Chevron, Mike Wirth, the CEO of ExxonMobil, Darren Woods, both have said, we're really tight on the inventories right now. Cushing has been pretty well depleted. That's where everything trades in the U.S. Now, there are a bunch of other trading hubs, but that's the benchmark for U.S. Oil markets. And so with the price down at $70, which is essentially where it was more than a year ago when President Trump took office and before he went to MBS in Saudi Arabia and asked for cheaper oil, that's still significantly higher than $56 a barrel, which is where we were in January. The U.S. government has been selling in the futures market. It's been selling with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And so keep in mind that the price that we're seeing today quoted on NYMEX is for the August contract. Last week it was for the July contract. And so those prices tend to drop as long as everybody sees that there's plenty of oil that will be available for the month of August.
And help me here where I don't understand this, because I definitely don't understand what's going on here. A lot of the belief is that there's movement and what's happening between us and Iran, and it's moving towards something that's going to allow passage through the strait or whatever. But that seems to be all of this non-confirmed rhetoric that keeps coming out. You listen to one side, you hear it's a great deal and they're moving forward. You listen to the other side, say, no, we never agreed to any of this. Then you hear there's going to be a tax, there's not going to be a tax, how long it's going to take to clear mines, not clear mines. Is this just a blip? What is the industry listening to or looking at that allows these changes in the pricing? Because I would think if I'm the head of a company, I would not be listening to a thing the president or the administration is saying because it's not being verified. Explain.
So exactly. If I'm a large oil company with downstream refining operations, I'm concerned about the cost of the barrel that I have to pay for today to make it into gasoline for next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And so that's how these guys are operating. The inventories have been run down, the commercial inventories. The president himself has said that the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is about at its limit for discharge before we start damaging the salt caverns. And so the physical quantity, where do we get the oil from to fill up the Beaumont refinery to produce the gasoline? That's what everyone in the U.S. is focused on. The futures market can kind of be like the tail that wags the dog. The overall stock market is seeing a sell-off in the tech sector today. Over the last several months, I've had any number of folks from medical doctors, tech entrepreneurs, people in the grocery store. How do I play the oil market? And I think with the preponderance of evidence pointing towards some sort of agreement in Iran, these folks are getting out now. It's time to go. They've seen the price go down. They don't want to stay exposed to it anymore. And keep in mind that the U.S. oil patch has been a terrible investment for the last 15 years. The last 6 months have been okay, but it's been really tough to make a living in the stock market, and that's what the retail investor sees. And if you add up all the contracts that trade on NYMEX and Cushing, even on Brent, you don't get up to more than about 6 months of global supply, and that's spread out across 20-odd years of potential contract trading. So there's speculation. We know that the sovereign wealth funds of the OPEC nations will play in the market ahead of announcements. And we also know that this time around, the U.S. government has been playing in the market, both with the SPR releases, which really run kind of counter to a free market response. For the Republicans, the free market Republicans, this is direct government intervention, the very kind that they argued against as a bad thing during the Biden administration, but it's okay now for them. Presumably we're going to start to refill the SPR, bring back some oil. The market obviously is pardon the pun, very fluid.
Well, we're going to continue to watch it. You're going to continue to watch that much more than we will, and I'm sure we'll get you back on to talk about that as we see that shift and change. Let's get over to those data centers we've been dangling in front of you for a while now. What's the deal on how come they need so much power? Where is this coming from? I understood early on in this movement toward having them here, they would all be responsible for creating their own source of energy. What am I missing in this? Why is it going to hurt us?
Well, what we've seen is we've been damaged financially as consumers by the data centers, which used to be known as cryptocurrency miners. They've driven up the price across ERCOT, at least by 5%. The independent market monitor has tried not to report that, but it's really clear, and they operate as a basically free electricity arbitrage. 5 years ago, one of them and its trading partner made $130 million while the rest of us froze. And they've been able to buy electricity very, very cheaply and essentially, like any good parasite on a grid, have hurt the overall reliability of the grid without actually paying their way. And the governor has really just taken an about face on this with his directive to the Public Utility Commission and to ERCOT. And actually, this frames up another wonderful irony for free market Texas. The Supreme Court, under Chief Justice Nathan Hecht, ruled that ERCOT is an arm of the state. And it's quite clear the governor is acting as the de facto CEO of the grid. This costs everyday Texans in the ERCOT market a lot of money. A recent study that was just published showed that ERCOT consumers, the residential consumers, paid more than $2 billion, more than they should have if they had been in another Texas market, for example, El Paso Electric, or in the Entergy service area, which extends essentially from Beaumont up through Kingwood and the Woodlands. Those customers have a real break over the customers in ERCOT. And then, taking a look at some of the EI data, it shows that residential rates on average across Texas have gone up over the March to March. But the commercial and industrial rates have actually gone down. So residential consumers are subsidizing the commercial and industrial consumers. And, as a matter of public policy, we did this years ago. We wanted to encourage the construction of manufacturing facilities, office headquarters, anything that could bring more people in industry to the state. But these data centers don't do that. Sure, there's a spate of construction when they get going, but there have been tax breaks issued. The governor wants to walk those back. All sorts of waivers for use of water. And a data center, it's a massive computer when you get down to it. Your laptop scaled up many, many, many times. It doesn't employ people. It's a computer. It doesn't make people want to build new grocery stores or new subdivisions.
We are speaking with Ed Hers, Energy Fellow at the University of Houston. If you want to join the conversation, 713-440-8870.
I just keep hearing the cash register clicking as you talk. Like, who is going to pay for all of this? And I understand AI uses a lot of water as well. So where are all these resources coming from and who is paying?
One of the cryptocurrency miners in Navarro County uses 1 gigawatt of electricity each hour, each day. And it also...
Put that in perspective. How much is 1
Well, let's
gigawatt?
see. 1 megawatt will run 200,000 homes. And so a gigawatt is 1,000 megawatts. That's a lot.
Wow. And how often does it do that?
Every day. And it uses about 1 million gallons of water every day. It cycles some of that back into the reservoir, but it goes in at about 105 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's certainly had some sort of change. Remarkably, this is, I think, the one time ever in my career I've been aligned with Greenpeace. Anyway, going on. We're seeing the frenzy with data centers, and we all use them every day. I'm not going to mention a couple of them because with our phones here, they might go on off and start wanting to participate in the discussion. Chevron has just signed to build a big data center with Microsoft out in West Texas, potentially up to 5 gigawatts. Chevron's got the resources, it's got the gas, and this is just a natural integration, if you will, of what they do. They can take molecules and make them into electricity. They can take molecules and make them into plastics, polymers, and fuel. But we've also seen the essentially what appears to be the failure of Fermi, which was the company that former Governor Rick Perry took public last fall at a tremendous valuation. He and the CEO and the investors have begun selling out. They really haven't done very much, and they certainly don't have a lead tenant. They don't have Meta. They don't have Microsoft. They don't have Google. And this begs the question of, certainly they've talked to all of these firms. Why haven't they come to some commercial arrangement if they've got a site, if they've got power, if they've got equipment coming and resources, then what's the holdup with getting someone who, for example, like Microsoft, they've signed a deal to restart 3 Mile Island Unit 1.
3 Mile Island. That puts a chill down my back.
It's the one that was featured in the movie.
Yes. If you pop on your headphones, we've got a call coming in. It's 713-440-8870. It's Rita from Northeast Houston. Rita, what's on your mind today?
I have a question about or comment, I guess, about the data centers. By the time we find out that one is coming to our area, it's already said and done. Mm-hmm. The politicians, those who support it, those who are going to make money from it, it's already said and done. And we have to pay for it. We're barely struggling to live right now. And like the gentleman said, these are huge computers. After they're built, they're not hiring a lot of people. What can we do to really let whomever know we have to do something about these data centers? We want to be in community with them, but they're really taxing us. What can we do in the future?
Rita, thank you for that. And I don't think she has any pun intended by they're really taxing us. I think she's using that in the broadest sense of the word, but it can be applied.
Exactly. So most of the data centers are going to be built in more rural settings, and we've seen all the complaints about the noise, the lights.
I just saw a video online of the noise that comes from it. I hadn't even imagined that part of it.
Well, and so I don't expect one to be built in the city of Houston. But the local politicians need to be on top of this. In Navarro County, the local leadership jumped behind the cryptocurrency miners, and that was a huge amount of money that was coming into their community, but it was focused on the county commissioners, mm-hmm. the leaders, and they got their campaign contributions and moved on down the road. It's important to pay attention and stay in touch with elected officials, and this is really where local journalism matters. We need to rely upon the reporters, newspaper, radio, and television to keep monitoring for us.
And also experts like you. Glenn Ray wrote in and wrote, "Thank you for having the Professor Hers back on. His breadth of knowledge of the energy sector has always been impressive, and he is a great communicator." There you go. Sean Radigan asks, could you ask Professor Herz if he thinks the big AI don't have a path to profitability?
They actually do, and that's primarily because we all pay subscription fees. Take a look at the fees you pay for your Apple products, for Alexa, for Copilot. These fees are inching up. Take a look at Netflix, which now throws advertisements in the middle of the movies you're watching, or in Prime. Amazon Web Services. Once they have you, it's really easy to kind of incrementally change the model because, frankly, you're a consumer. You don't have any real ability to negotiate. And in the greater world of electricity, typically what has happened back in the days, starting with Edison, everyone was afraid that once they had a wire into your house, it was a monopoly, and that's absolutely true. And so we collectively put regulatory agencies in place. Here in Texas, we've got the Public Utility Commission of Texas to oversee electricity, but it's different within ERCOT because since ERCOT and the PUC all answer to the governor, there is no oversight. It's actually operation by the government in the wholesale electricity market. The energy area, service area, and then the El Paso electric area. The Public Utility Commission oversees those and intercedes for us in the negotiation of rates.
Ed, always fascinating to have you on. I have more questions. We have run out of time, but I'm sure you'll come back and join us again.
See you next week.
Yeah, pretty much next
really.
week. Ed Herz is an energy fellow at the University of Houston and a regular contributor right here at Hello Houston. Coming up, kind of in the same vein, we're going to talk about the movie The Gas Station Attendant. See how it's kind of...
I see how you're linking this
doesn't really
together.
have anything to do with the other. But anyway, that's coming up next. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Miami, and the Scots' historic run is on the line. Scotland have never made it past the group stage in previous World Cups, and they need at least a draw against the 5-time world champions to keep that dream alive. Meanwhile, in Vancouver, Canada and their American coach Jesse Marsh take on Switzerland with a place in the knockouts up for grabs. And in Group A, co-host Mexico, who've won both their games, face Czechia in the Azteca, and South Korea are looking for a win against South Africa to hold on to second place in that group. On Tuesday, superstar Cristiano Ronaldo and a loaded Portugal team released all their frustrations from round one on Uzbekistan, winning 5-0. Ronaldo had 2 goals and was used cleverly as a decoy on a free kick, directly leading to another goal. With the game's biggest stars showing up and scoring in bunches this tournament, France's Kylian Mbappé was asked this week, who's the best?
Lionel Messi. It's clear. It's the best in the world with Cristiano.
Meanwhile, England couldn't break down a stubborn Ghana side, drawing 0-0. Croatia kept their tournament hopes alive, beating Panama, and Colombia are through to the knockouts after beating DR Congo, setting up a showdown with Portugal for first place in the group on Saturday. I'm Jimmy Moss.
Support for soccer tournament coverage comes from SPF 1000 Vampire Sunscreen, the podcast that asks, what is the darkness to you? Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Karbach Brewing, makers of Hopadillo IPA, hosting summer soccer at Karbach, featuring live matches on a 14-foot LED screen, along with internationally inspired food and drink offerings.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manus and guest host, Maria Todd.
All right, welcome back to Hello Houston. Thank you so much for listening. And let me tell you, we have some great guests. So, to get you ready, Here's the number, 713-440-8870, so you can get your questions, everything ready to call, and now I'll introduce them. Tomorrow night, the Museum of Fine Arts Houston will present a screening of the 2025 award-winning documentary film, The Gas Station Attendant. It's directed by Houston-born filmmaker Karla Murthy. The documentary is Murthy's reflection of her father's life, chronicling his journey from the streets of India all the way here to Texas, where he worked as a gas station attendant, while also serving as a reflection of her own experience as the daughter of two immigrants. She joins us now to tell us more about the film, along with Lilu, the creator and lead curator of HTX Made, who will be moderating this screening. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I guess I would start with, from what I've seen of the film, and I haven't seen it all the way through yet, but I often hear this story told as they were a doctor there and they come to the U.S. and they become a cab driver or something like that. In your story, you're talking about the struggle and the desire to come to America, to find something better. And I think on the surface, we would think gas station attendant may not be that something better to a lot of people. But in this case, it was a lifeline.
It was definitely a lifeline. And I think that a lot of the film is me kind of reconciling that my dad wasn't a doctor. He ended up working as a gas station attendant, and sort of the shame I kind of felt about that, because often the narrative that we have about immigrants is that kind of, model minority story. And so it was important for me to tell a different story, and not, a one-dimensional story of someone, but someone who led a full life, made mistakes, and was trying as hard as he could to make it and to provide for our family.
Yeah. How excited, and was he involved in the making of it beyond things that you could gather of him? Was he actively involved?
No, he passed away a number of years ago, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to make this film. It started from phone conversations that I had recorded with him while he was working nights at the gas station.
Was that the plan at that point when you were recording those conversations, I guess, or was it just happenstance you had the recordings?
It wasn't happenstance. It was a way for me to keep him company. I had just moved to New York, and I would call him up at night just to talk with him. And then he started telling me his stories about how he came to the country. He was a street kid in India, so he had an unusual way of getting here. And so I was like, let's just record some of these. Just, you've always wanted to, so let's just do this, a few nights of the week. And so I have recorded those 20 years ago, like many, many years ago, and kind of sat on them. And it wasn't until his death, me having a family of my own, and you start to think about, like, what your parents went through, that kind of led me back to those tapes and wanting to hear his voice again.
Lee, people often talk about how biography is built, how people represent and tell story. What was it about this story that made you say there's something different? And you can just look at the awards and the festivals it's been at and how people are reacting to it. But for you, what was it?
I think Karla's family story is the story of Houston. Look at the city itself. It's so diverse. So many different stories of how people came to this place. I myself grew up in Sugar Land. So this was a beautiful example of one story of many that exemplified the city of Houston. So we're so glad to do it.
Yeah, but I assume there's a lot of films out there and a lot of people are trying to say, my life story is worth you looking at. What made this one, do you think, worth all of us looking at?
Yeah, I think, for HTX Made, our first bucket is to support filmmakers from Houston, to showcase the variety of stories and people that have grown up here. So when I first saw the film and saw Karla talking about her experience growing up in Fort Bend, I thought this was a perfect story to bring to Houston and to bring it to the fore at the Fine Art Museum as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, I've got a sidebar. How did you two ladies get together? Who suggested who to who?
I had known about Lee from her documentary series about Victoria. So that's how I met her. And I don't think I actually met you, but we were at the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival, and her series was airing there. And I had a short that was being shown there. So that's when I first kind of knew about her amazing work as a filmmaker. And then I saw that she had this series, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, how can I get in touch with her? Because I'd love to have a hometown screening of this film.
Yeah. Oftentimes when people tell a story, and you're thinking, as a filmmaker, I assume, you're thinking of the audience that you're going to reach with it. And I think a problem a lot of filmmakers fall into is they try to generalize out their story to attract a large audience, where it seems the true adage should be the more honest and into the exact detail of your story, the more it will connect with people out there. How do you feel about these two schools of thought?
You know, I had this worry that I did need to broaden out, and I was worried my story was too specific. My mother's from the Philippines. My dad is from India. They met, at an international party for students at the University of Houston, and just their whole story just seemed so singular to me.
Right.
But then I realized, the more I just leaned into that, and also I learned just from all the festivals that we've been around, the country with all kinds of different audiences from all walks of life, all can find themselves in this story in so many ways that I wasn't predicting, whether they had a complicated relationship with a parent, their own immigration story. I mean, there's so many different entryways that I didn't realize from telling such a personal story that people would be able to connect with. And that's been an amazing experience.
Going back through the phone calls and all of the footage you have and all of that, did you find a different man there than the one you thought you were with when you started the project?
Yes. I mean, that was the whole reason for me making this film, was trying to understand his life in a new way. And those tapes captured a moment in time. Those stories I had heard a million times growing up, how he came to the States. But with the soundtrack of the gas station, the cash register, people interrupting his story to buy cigarettes, I started to hear his story differently. And then also, of course, when you have kids of your own, my son was the same age that my dad was when he ran away from home in India and was living on the streets and was hungry. He was telling me the story. And that was something I did hear as a kid. But seeing my own son and imagining that happening to him, I mean, it broke my heart. And I was like, wow, I didn't understand what it meant for this child to survive. And his will to survive in India is what led to me and was what led to my kids. And we've inherited those stories. And so those are all things that I kind of learned through the filmmaking process, was to really understand what he went through. And what my kids are now inheriting, and the need to want to share those stories with them too.
Lee, I don't want to overstep and not talk about HTX Made and what you folks do in the whole program there.
Well, this is a perfect example. Stories like this, when I screened in a town called Victoria in Houston about a year ago, I realized that there was a lot of people like Karla and I wanting to come back to reconnect with Houston. We live in different places in the country, New York, Los Angeles, doing the work that we do, but we always wanted to bring it home to show our work to our original first audiences, which usually is our family and the people who inspired us to make films in the first place. And usually those people don't get to see our films on screen in a big theater with great sound. So this was kind of our impetus to start the whole screening series last year.
Yeah. Are you surprised at who shows up to the screenings?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful room of film lovers, of community members, of folks who have never been to some of these theaters before. And also, I want to say the people that hear the stories on the airwaves and say that story, feels like something I can connect to. Mm-hmm. Or I recognize that person. Actually, a beautiful story is that our first film that we programmed, which is a film called The Strike, this filmmaker, Joe Bill Munoz, he actually just won a Peabody Award and an Emmy Award for his film. But his high school media teacher heard his interview here on the radio station and showed up and drove all the way from Navasota to Rice University to attend the screening because he had mentioned her as her main inspiration for filmmaking in general. So what a beautiful story that is.
Yeah. Well, you bring beautiful stories to the screen here in town, and this one is a beautiful story. Thank you both for coming in. I'm going to give all the information now. Karla Murthy is a Houston-born filmmaker and the director of The Gas Station Attendant, and Lee Liu is the creator and lead curator of HTX Made. Thank you again both for coming. The Gas Station Attendant will be screening at the MFAH tomorrow, June 25th. It's already June 25th. Starting at 7 p.m. For more information, visit hmah.org/events. Coming up, we'll continue discussing today's top stories, and we'll explore, is Houston a good city for graduates? We'll find out as Hello Houston continues.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
support comes from Metro. World Cup planning includes transit improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match. Metro provides bus, rail, and paratransit service and continues mobility enhancements across the region. More at ridemetro.org/Metro Now.
Sunny, hot day today. We'll get up to 95. Heat index as high as 105. Currently, it's 88. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, a federal judge on Monday blocked bans by the Trump administration and several states on the use of SNAP benefits to buy soda, candy, and other foods considered unhealthy. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Maria Todd. Houston remains one of the best places in America to start a career, but why does it still trail Austin and Dallas when it comes to attracting and retaining young professionals? Houston Business Journal's Janet Miranda joins us to discuss.
Plus, are Americans' political divisions really a modern problem, or are they baked into the country centuries before the United States even existed? Surprising new research may have the answers.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or give us a text, 713-440-8870.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. In a major test of his political power, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani went 3 for 3 in last night's Democratic primaries. Steve Kestenbaum reports the outcome will move the New York congressional delegation further to the left.
Mayor Mamdani flexed his muscles while stumping for his picks, and it paid off in a big way. All 3 candidates he backed won their primary races. In one upset, 5-term Democratic Congressman Adriano Espaillat went down in a narrow loss to Darializa Avila Chevalier.
Today we make it clear. The politics of the past ends today.
Mamdani's friend, former New York Comptroller Brad Lander, defeated incumbent Representative Dan Goldman by a wide margin. With New York leaning heavily blue, it means more Democratic socialists will likely head to Congress. For NPR News, I'm Steve Kestenbaum in New York.
Congress, on a bipartisan basis, approved a bill last night designed to make housing more affordable. President Trump had been scheduled to sign the bill into law today, but hours before the ceremony, the president said he will not sign the bill. That first, Congress must pass the Save America Act, legislation to impose new federal rules on elections that under the Constitution are run by the states. House Speaker Mike Johnson wants Trump's bill to pass, but he says that's going to be a challenge in the Senate.
He's laser focused on Save America Act, as most common sense Americans are. The only path, I think, to get that done, because you're never going to get 7 Democrats to join 53 Republicans in the Senate to do that. They will not do it. Chuck Schumer will never vote for that or release any Democrat to do it. You have to put it on a reconciliation bill.
Reconciliation allows Congress to pass legislation on some matters with only a majority vote to avoid a filibuster in the Senate. A watchdog group is calling for the state of New York to investigate crisis pregnancy centers, which it accuses of lying to potential patients. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports.
The Campaign for Accountability, a nonprofit watchdog group, sent a letter this week to New York Attorney General Letitia James. Michelle Coopersmith is the group's executive director.
Crisis pregnancy centers appear to lie to potential clients about their ability to actually diagnose problematic pregnancies like ectopic pregnancies.
Her letter asks the AG's office to investigate instances of this in New York. Surprisingly, a lawyer who represents crisis pregnancy centers agrees in part. Here's Ann O'Connor of the National Institute of Family and Life Advocates in a webinar last year.
Do not advertise we can rule out an ectopic because it is near impossible.
The group did not respond to NPR's multiple requests for comment. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gail DeLauder. The City of Houston's new capital improvement plan for the next 5 years is expected to cost about $18 billion. City Council has approved an updated list of major infrastructure projects as part of a yearly revision. Mayor Whitmire's proposal faced only a few successful amendments. One requires the city to move up the process of getting new trash trucks.
We're not where we want to be or where we're going to be, but the calls to the city on trash, certainly recycling and heavy trash, the calls of complaints have dropped significantly.
The city's 311 center got about 15,000 complaints about missed solid waste pickups over the past 12 weeks. That's compared to nearly 16,000 over the same period a year ago. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is planning to build a $300 million agriculture complex near Highway 288. News 88.7's Michael Atkinson says they'll still have the rodeo at NRG Park, but some competitions are moving off-site.
This new facility will include a new 5,000-seat arena, 2 large barns, a cattle yard, and a central building, all of which can be used year-round. Horse competitions, some livestock shows, junior and open breeding shows, and other competitions are moving to the new facility. But the rodeo is otherwise staying at NRG Park. Here's Chris Bowman, president and CEO of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo.
We're glad to be at NRG Park, or Reliant Park. It's important. It's still home for us. It's where our offices are. But this allows us flexibility, not only in programming year-round, but quite frankly, it also adds flexibility at the park.
The new facility is being funded entirely by the rodeo. It's expected to break ground later this year with the goal of being in operation by the 2029 rodeo. I'm Michael Atkinson, News 88.7.
The Astros wrap up their series against the Blue Jays in Toronto tonight. First pitch is just after 6. I'm Gail DeLauder, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their dining and entertainment card, Savor. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous.
Hello, hello, and with Ernie Manous is the one, the only, Maria Todd.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. You know, today is Wednesday, so it's our Would You Rather Wednesday. And
Oh, gosh.
I wouldn't rather be with anyone else today than you.
Oh.
There you go. True from my heart.
Now I'm going to have to come back on Shag, Marry, Cliff Friday and see what you say.
Yeah, we'll see what happens to you. We also had our Would You Rather question. I always get to these late, so I apologize. I should have mentioned it in the first hour so you could have voted because the votes have already been done. But our question for our Would You Rather Wednesday, so you just remember it if I forget, okay? Okay. This one was, would you rather have your life narrated by Morgan Freeman or Gordon Ramsay?
Ooh.
Now, I know where I would have gone, and I am happy to say most of our respondents went that way. But who would you rather have have your life narrated daily by? Morgan Freeman, Gordon Ramsay.
You know, the obvious choice would be Morgan Freeman because it would be cool and calm. But, you know, I'd say Gordon Ramsay just for the entertainment value.
Well, it's interesting because I thought there was no choice there. I thought, of course, Morgan Freeman, and 96% of the folks that responded said Morgan Freeman. And Jake Hamilton, a friend of mine, he's now a big entertainment and anchor up in Chicago, but he interned here and he worked with us here many, many years ago.
I remember Jake.
Yeah, he got Morgan Freeman to do an obituary for him, like to say Jake's
Oh,
life
my
or something.
gosh.
It's very funny. So, yeah, Morgan Freeman, that's the voice of a generation.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Also, another point I want to bring up. We were doing the movie screening for the Gas Station Attendant, and I guess at the end of the show, I gave the website wrong. I could tell because our two guests, who were lovely, were sitting there, and I gave the address, and they both just looked at me like, what is wrong with him? But neither said anything, so I just kept
They
going.
gave you the Scooby-Doo look,
Well, what it is, if you want to find more information about the Gas Station Attendant, you can go to mfah.org/events. Museum Fine Arts Houston.
Okay.
I got the letters discombobulated. My dyslexia ruling. It's showing me its scary head.
It's okay. You can come back and correct it anytime you want.
And they got mentioned again this way.
Yes.
See?
Yes.
So hopefully more
Win-win.
people go. Yeah, it looks like a wonderful film, and it's screening tomorrow night. Coming up on today's show, there's a lot of us, not me, but a lot of you that have just graduated. I graduated a long time ago, and you're wondering about career paths. And is Houston a good place to be for that? Do other Texas cities rank better with their graduate placement? We're going to find out how Houston ranks for young professionals starting their career in just a few minutes. And also, we're going to talk about the Great Divide in our country. A lot of folks feel like that there's a separation in our country that may be insurmountable, that we are becoming two different nations wrapped in one. Well, we have some new research that may point to a different understanding. It may not be red against blue. It may be different histories of over 400 years of who founded which areas, what people migrated there, and how they became a culture within themselves. State of Texas seems to have 3 or 4 different groupings like that here. We'll be talking about all of that coming up. I'm fascinated by this whole topic, if you can't tell. But to start things off, it's the news headlines,
Yes.
and Maria Todd, take us in.
A federal judge on Monday blocked bans by the Trump administration and several states on the use of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, aka SNAP, to buy soda, candy, and other foods that are considered unhealthy. Late last year, a push by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins urged states to strip some foods from the $100 billion federal program. The move came in tandem with Kennedy's Make America Healthy Again agenda, and he has praised the move to restrict SNAP purchases. Several states last year requested that the federal government allow them to go around U.S. Department of Agriculture policy settings and find out what SNAP benefits can purchase, which the agency approved according to a court filing. Now, in her ruling, U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson rescinded those approvals. In response to the ruling, Rollins said Tuesday in a post on the social platform X that a, quote, activist judge just blocked our common sense restriction on using SNAP benefits for soda and junk. SNAP is for food, not sugar bombs fueling obesity, diabetes, and skyrocketing healthcare costs for low-income families. What are your thoughts on the SNAP restrictions? Are you for them? Are you against them? Call or text us now, 713-440-8870.
I got very lost in this story when I first heard about it, trying to understand exactly what happened here. And it seems as though, if I'm following it correctly, so SNAP is the national organization or that makes sure that folks get the funds they need, and that's approved by Congress. Then USDA gives a waiver to block what they were able to give, but the judge is saying USDA had no approval over those waivers. It wasn't for them to do. It had to come from Congress. So those became null and void. So they couldn't do that. What fascinates me about the story is what's happening here in the state of Texas. And there was that big bill that was being pushed forward by Mays Middleton, which was the Texas SNAP restriction bill. And that Texas received that waiver and implemented the restrictions on April 1st, 2026. But this ruling now brings that into question. So if my understanding is right, the judge didn't specifically overturn Texas's SNAP soda and candy ban, but she ruled that USDA likely never had the authority to approve those state restrictions in the first place, which could open the door for challenges against Texas's program and similar efforts nationwide, even though Texas wasn't one of the states involved in the suit. So it could impact us. So it could definitely have an impact on what you can buy right here in Texas, in Houston area, with your SNAP benefits. So that's the foundation of this whole situation. So if you're wondering, how does it affect me? Yes, it very well could. The bigger question is, once again, where do you fall in this idea? Should you, once you are approved for these benefits, be free to manage how that money is spent? Or should they be able to step in there and say, the government say, you can buy this, but not that, because we're giving you this money for a certain purpose? 713-440-8870.
I also would like to know, who is the person that judges what is unhealthy? You know, because I love bacon, but bacon is probably one of the most unhealthy foods on the planet.
And I'm assuming you can buy bacon with your SNAP program.
So, you know.
I mean, I'm going to argue Cheetos probably aren't the most healthy thing on the planet. But, you know, when you got a hankering for that, there's nothing else that fills that bill.
Yeah.
The argument will be, but should the government pay for you to have that taste? Earl Grey T-Cat writes, I don't care what poor people buy or eat. I care what billionaires do with all the money they funnel upwards to themselves.
Ooh.
Yeah. How are they spending their money?
Well, nobody tells them what to do. They can buy as many Cheetos and as many pounds of bacon as they want.
Yeah. Well, but the argument would be it's their money. They can
Right.
do with it. The other argument would be, but they get all those tax breaks. So the money they are not paying toward their taxes because of the tax breaks they get, they're getting to use on bacon and whatever else they want. So aren't they using taxpayer money for that? Food for thought. No pun intended there. I'm not really torn on it. I understand. I've had a family member who was in need. And so they came to me for help.
Okay.
And so I provided them funding for it. Well, then they took that money and they went out to dinner with someone. And I got very angry because I was like, well, wait a minute. I gave you that money so you could get groceries and take care of bills you needed. What you could have used that money for could have helped for a week, and you blew it in one night at a dinner with someone. And their argument back was, no, you gave me money to help me. You helped me. I was able to do this now.
Yeah, but that wasn't what you had in mind when you were giving it.
Intended for. Chef Rob writes, I agree with the restrictions. Nutrition shouldn't be an oxymoron. SNAP is only meant to be temporary, so giving up a junk food until you get on your feet makes sense. Interesting. Your thoughts? 713-440-8870. I guess another way to look at it is if you qualify for these benefits,
right,
you're already showing financially you are not at the level that you need to be at to function well in this society.
Right.
So if you use your SNAP benefits for, like we keep going to Cheetos, but it's a lot of stuff that you don't think of that falls into that category. If you get a baked good, you know, depending on the sugar content of that may fall outside the line of what you can use your SNAP benefits, but it could be a child's birthday. You know, I mean, there's moments where
you
wanna
want
do
those
something.
things.
And giving you this money through this assistance through SNAP is allowing you to use what money you do have in another area. So you may have had to take your power money, your electricity money, and pay for that birthday cake, but because you have SNAP benefits, you're able to use that for that. And I mean, I just think it all balances itself out in the wash.
Right.
I'm not articulating it well here, but maybe Dale will do a better job. Dale's on the line, 713-440-8870. Dale, what are you thinking?
Well, first of all, I may be a little intimidated because I feel like I'm speaking to two legends in Houston.
So. Dale, call back every day, please.
Y'all will have to kind of bear with me.
Okay, take it away.
I just think that this is just another attempt to demonize the poor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Republicans, the conservatives have wanted to do away with these kind of programs for years. Okay, they just had to get the right administration in. So this is a start because basically what they're saying is they want to try to convince people, well, they're using your tax money to buy Cokes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're using your tax money to buy things they shouldn't do. So we want you to support us when we try to cut these programs out totally. I mean, they're already starting to kind of whittle them away and cut down the benefits. So this doesn't surprise me. So the judge should have struck it down.
Dale, good points. The thing that comes to mind listening to you talk too, and I think about when we approve a bond issue for flooding and then that money isn't used toward flooding, people get upset about that. And I think it's that same kind of mentality that if the money is being used for nutritional assistance, that when people don't see it used in that direction, it makes them concerned. But I think there's a lot bigger things people should be concerned with than what people are
And also,
taking.
like, do you practice the same thing when you go and buy groceries? Do you not buy any sweets or do you not buy any Cokes
But the
with your
argument
own
will be
money?
made, it's my money. It's not the government's money. That's the argument you're going to get on that. And
But I'm thinking, yeah, it's with your money, but it's like, why should these people be penalized, if you will.
Right. It's another level of punishment. You're
for
not
being poor.
successful in this financial situation we've created around you, therefore you should suffer and not
Right.
get the joys in life, if you even see them as joys. Dale, thank you very much for calling and for your kind words. 713-440-8870. Emily from Clear Lake is on the line. Emily, your thoughts?
Hi, I'm very much against this ban because I have a son who has autism. He's an adult, but he will never be able to work, and he lives on SNAP. I mean, we of course pay for him right now, but after we're gone, that's what he lives on, and it's $6 a day. And so it's when I go to the grocery store with him, and I try to teach him how to, buy groceries and everything. It's created an additional level of complexity. He doesn't understand why he can't buy a cookie. I don't know. I just feel like it is punitive. And also, people living on very little often do, and they shouldn't, but they do, drink a Coke or something and have a snack because they're trying to skip a meal. $6 a day is not enough to live healthy, to eat healthy. So if that's the goal of the program, they need to fund it so people are not living on $6 a day. I mean, it's obviously you're going to snack and skip meals and, not eat in a very healthy way because you have don't have a choice.
Emily, thank you. Very, very good points there too. And when you talk about it, $6 a day, you think to yourself, okay, do with it what you want. It's not enough to build your entire grocery budget. Unfortunately, in some households, it's all they have. But things are going to be supplemented. Okay, so, I don't know. I'm very torn on this one. I think people should have the freedom to choose what they want. We got a lot of calls coming, so I'm going to stop just yammering myself and go to Wanda from Northwest Houston, called in at 713-440-8870. Wanda, talk to me.
Hi. So I just wanted to quickly, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I wanted to quickly clarify that I do work for a school district, not HISD, but it's interesting, a side fact, that I'm still on SNAP even though I work for a school district full time.
Wow.
So this legislation has directly affected me because I am a SNAP recipient. I am actually for it. I am okay with having to pay out of pocket for soda. But my worry is, does it stop here? Where are they going to continue going after this? Are they going to continue to eliminate foods? Are they going to stop us from being able to buy a cake at the bakery? Because right now you still can buy a cake at the bakery. And that's just what I wanted to bring up was, does it stop here? Does it end here? Or do we continue whittling away at what we're allowed to buy?
Thank you for sharing that. And, it's sad to say, I hear your story all the time of people who work and still need assistance because, was it Walmart actually that gave seminars to their employees how to register for all of these assistance programs because they weren't paying enough of a salary to have them not have to be on these assistance programs. And because those assistance programs existed, they were able to pay their employees less.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have it in their mind that the people that are on SNAP are just lazy, unemployed people, that we shouldn't buy them Oreos because they're not working. And this woman right here disproves that. You can be working full time and still not be able to afford the things you want or that you need.
Just for point of reference, while we're having this conversation, the Texas SNAP, the Lone Star card purchases, what they prohibit currently: candy bars, gum, taffy, hard candy, candied nuts, candied fruit, chocolate-coated fruits or nuts, yogurt-coated fruits or nuts, nuts roasted with sweetener. They also ban soft drinks with 5 grams or more sugar added, energy drinks, drinks containing any artificial sweetener, many sweetened teas, sports drinks, and flavored beverages that meet the sugar artificial sweetener threshold. So all of that is limited on it. You can still buy frozen foods, cans, vegetables, meat, poultry, fish, dairy products, bread, cereals, eggs. Many snack foods, including popcorn, crackers, and granola bars, do not fall under the state's candy definition. So just interesting point for you there. It is interesting, and I have lost track of where I am in my calls. If someone can tell me what call I'm on next, I think it's Calvin from Pearland. Let's go to Calvin. Calvin, what's on your mind?
Hello, guys, and again, thanks for having me on. My thinking is this: if they want to govern what people use the dollars for, then they should give people a choice. You take the base amount and you choose what you want to choose, or they reasonably consider the fact that healthy food is simply 50% more expensive, and so you give those people that option. You get 50% more and allow us to govern what you can or cannot choose, or you take the base amount. It just try to take politics out, but give people options.
Yep. Calvin, thank you for sharing. I want to grab a comment from Chef Rob. Says, when I earn my money, I can spend it as I like. If I'm getting a social benefit, there should, all caps, be strings, because it's not, all caps, their money. The pushback, though, is the money from taxes paid, and not everyone was always in that situation. So where that money comes from, it's, in a sense, you could say it's all of our money. Brandon Arnold says, I don't get why the government needs to police what people eat. Let's go to Sarah on the line and wrap up this conversation. Sarah, you're our last caller. Talk to us.
Okay, thanks. I think if the point is to get nutrition, good nutrition into people who are low income, then the first thing that should be addressed are food deserts, so that somewhat affordable food is available in their neighborhoods. They might not have cars. Mm-hmm. They can't drive across town. Once you've got good food available where they can get it, okay, then we can have a conversation about the other stuff maybe. But, you know, it seems backwards to restrict calories if that's all they have available to them anyway.
It's a really good point you bring up. The food deserts, the lack of nutritious food that's out there, the cost of the healthier food up against the less healthy foods. And sometimes you're just trying to fill someone's stomach, you know, to just feel satiated. And unfortunately, in a lot of situations, they can't get to food. I also want to remind everyone, too, we have wonderful organizations throughout our city that work with folks, and there are food pantries and the such. And so always be on the lookout for those where they can help people when they can. But the need is great. And it does seem a bit punitive when you step in and say, we're giving you this much and you can only spend it on that.
Yeah.
But you don't want money wasted is the feeling. Those are the thoughts that we're hearing today, and some of yours. Continue to share them with us. You can call us, email us, text us. Any way you want to share with us, we're always monitoring that. Remember, you can email us, talk@hellohouston.org. Coming up, we're going to find out, though, if you've just graduated, is this a good place to be? Houston, Texas? What does it look like out there for those young in their career path? We'll find out as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
PM+.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider that's been caring for hardworking Texans for over 30 years. More at texasmutual.com/expert partner.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, it's a night of nature and science. At 7, it's nature, followed at 8 by Nova. Then at 9, it's the new series The Kimberley, Australia's Wild West. Tonight on TV8.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor's work centers on advancing health and medicine through research, education, and patient care.
Support comes from Theater Under the Stars, with a 2026-27 season of Broadway musicals, including The Music Man, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Disney's The Little Mermaid. Information about season ticket packages available at tuts.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Maria Todd.
Houston, we love our city, and it continues to be a solid place for recent college graduates looking to launch their careers. That's all thanks to job opportunities and relatively affordable cost of living. But when compared to other major Texas cities like Austin, Dallas, Houston still has some catching up to do. Joining us now to talk about why is Janet Miranda, reporter with the Houston Business Journal and co-author of a recent article examining how Houston ranks for young professionals starting their careers. Janet, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Now, if you'd like to join the conversation, call or text 713-440-8870. I guess my first question is, why are we lagging behind some of these other cities?
Yeah, well, it seems to be that the cost of living here is lower, but that means, on the other hand, that places like Austin, they're going to pay you more on your first salary than in Houston. For example, Houston ranks number 18th in the country for recent graduates. That's median wage. And the wage is $50,000 a year, but in Austin, for example, that goes up to $59,000 a year. So a little more, and a lot of it has to do with the types of industries as well. I mean, Austin is very well known for being a tech hub, and Houston has a massive amount of industries, including aerospace, oil and gas, and healthcare, but the cost of living in places like Austin, the capital, it's still more, meaning that to compete, these industries have to pay more.
But I mean, I guess you make the math question for me there. If it costs more to live there and the salary's higher, but it costs less to live here and the salary's lower, does that all come out in the wash? Is our dollar going just as far here as there because of the difference of the cost of living?
Well, that's the interesting thing, that the data seems to say that, yes, even though you're getting paid, if you're starting out, you're getting paid $50,000 a year, because, cost of living is 7% below the national urban average in the U.S., and 25% below the average of the nation's most populous metros, according to the Council for Community and Economic Research. That's their latest data from 2025. It's still a really good spot for new grads to start their careers, just because you're still getting, bang for your buck.
Yeah. Is there a question about what our industry is compared to the opportunity that we have here? You talked about this just a little bit. Is it that it's not as desirable as some of maybe a flashier sounding industry, like you hear the tech industry and we'll go then to Austin here? Because when I live right outside of downtown. I see all those skyscrapers. I know about all the organizations that have a base here in this city. So there seems like there's lots of opportunity. Why do we feel like we're not on par with like a Dallas in that regard?
Yeah, well, a lot of it seems to be, they are flashier. businesses and industries that those people are known for. Those cities are known for. Sorry. For example, Houston, it's a lot of oil and gas. It's stuff that it's a bit technical, but we're also a big manufacturing hub. It's a well-growing manufacturing hub. So there's more that we're known for, if that makes any sense. I mean, aerospace and healthcare are also really big industries here. So unlike Austin and Dallas, who, Austin's known for tech, Dallas is known a lot for its financial institutions. We have a lot going on, and sometimes it's not as flashy, but it is secure and it has competitive pay.
Do you think we're lagging behind them because our industries aren't as quote unquote sexy as some of the other industries in Austin and Dallas and other big cities?
The concept of professional appeal.
I think that plays a little bit of a factor, definitely. Austin and Dallas have more established, people know them for tech and know them for financial institutions, whereas here we have a lot of different massive concentration of industries. And that makes it a little less flashy, but I think it also starts with education. On the education side, right? When you're getting your degree, there are certain things that are flashier, right? They lure you in with, oh, well, if you study business, you can do this or that. So I think maybe that's where we need to concentrate our efforts if, we want to become the sexy city. But overall, I mean, Houston is still a great place for entry-level, employees.
How do we work in recruiting? Do we have a good scene in the, I remember my senior year at university that there were recruiters there looking for people trying to encourage us to stay and be part of the fabric. I was in Chicago to be there and to grow do we lag there? Is that part of the problem, is maybe the PR of selling ourselves to recent grads, or is there something more inherently wrong?
Well, Houston is still one of the top cities where we do tend to hire more entry-level people. So Houston is still betting on new talent more than cities like Austin, and I think we're slightly behind Dallas. But we're still making that effort to get that talent to stay and to thrive here in the city. But I think it's to answer your question, I think it's a mix of getting that recruitment in there, but that it is pretty strong here in Houston.
Yeah. How does Houston, though, you're saying it's pretty strong. How do we beat the other cities? From what you've looked at, what you understand, the data that you've looked at, where could we make changes that would improve that retention rate so we're not educating our brightest and best and then they leave us?
Yeah, well, I think the main challenge, with keeping people in Houston and keeping young professionals, a lot of the same issues that plague Houstonians every day. I mean, the region's just susceptible to extreme heat, humidity, extreme weather events, and there's been a lot of, frequent power outages, major infrastructure issues that are really not great for keeping people in the region. But, there's also the issue that a lot of young professionals prefer, for example, to go to a major metro that is, more connected. It has more reliable public transit options and is more walkable. So those are kind of the challenges, and those aren't really challenges that businesses have a big impact in. It's stuff that, comes with living in Houston, and, as Houstonians, we are aware of.
I just want to remind everyone we're talking with Janet Miranda, who is a reporter with the Houston Business Journal, talking about opportunities for recent grads and growing their career right here in Houston.
Okay, you mentioned that some bigger cities may have a more livable kind of landscape, if you will. Like, I would contrast Houston and Dallas because I've lived in both, and I find that Dallas, they have extremes in temperatures. Like, it snows there in the winter and it's 110 in the summer, which to me is crazy. Like, you shouldn't have both. You should only have to suffer one way. And so I'm amazed that people would, and our football team is better, but I digress. I just wonder why they have anything over us. When I first moved here in the 90s, I would say maybe, Dallas had a higher profile and so forth, but I feel like it's even now. I feel like Houston is just as well known. We have just as big a food scene. Now, I don't know about the business end, like as far as jobs and so forth, but I would think that the living would be about the same. It'd be equal.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very similar. We're catching up to them when it comes to the rate that we hire new grads. But, people are still moving to Houston for economic opportunity more than anything else. And that's still very much a place where that is the case. But yeah, we have been evening out, the lead Dallas has there.
713-440-8870. Chris from Cyprus is on the line. Chris, what's on your mind?
Hi. One of the things I think that may help minimize the brain drain is to have like a lot more apprenticeships and internships where, young people can kind of like network, get their foot in the door, and, we could retain much more of their talent instead of having it go elsewhere.
Thank you, Chris, for that comment. How is the scene for networking and internships for fresh young professionals in this city?
Well, the good part is that there is a lot more of that. Recently, the Houston City College put out a partnership with Bloomberg Philanthropies for $17 million for apprenticeships and for a lot of trade school, which is interesting that there's kind of a move toward that regards. That's like the new learn to code of the 2020s. That, you need to have a skill that, AI can't replace, for example, because that's also another factor, with AI rising, there's a lot of entry level roles that are, wiped out because of that. And that means for entry level graduates that more increased competition and higher experience requirements.
As we talk about looking at where the problems lie, talk to me a little bit more about what industries are currently creating the most opportunities for young professionals right here in the Houston area. Where is that excitement and growth? And if you're a young graduate right now listening to this, where you should be looking?
Yeah, well, in Houston, the most interesting part is that it's a very diverse economy, and it's booming overall. I mean, even in areas that you would think are, oil and gas is always doing well, and tech industry here is new, and it is not as robust as like Austin, but it is doing some wonderful work here, and they are growing. Aerospace, of course, is also growing, and we're having Apple come into Houston and Tesla kind of expanding their reach here. So that's places that can, hire more people and especially continue to kind of diversify the economy. So we're not just known for one specific thing.
We had a couple comments come in. Chef Rob writes in to say, I don't understand how new graduates ignore that your degree doesn't mean you will make six figures immediately. Everyone has to pay their dues. That environment encourages people to polish themselves. That translates into increased income and learning their market value in their careers. Not all careers are equal. And Resonate writes, my best advice to graduates is to find an industry that's funded by the government contract work, or an industry that is directly funded from insurance. Interesting comments. I'm not sure that I would jump on the government bandwagon when we keep seeing cuts and stuff happening. But I do want to thank you, Janet, for coming in and sharing your findings, your column, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Janet Miranda is a reporter with the Houston Business Journal, and we thank her for joining us. Coming up, we're going to take a look at why Americans feel so divided. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
The Daily coming up tonight. It's on at 7 o'clock.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Discovery Green, presenting Kicks and Coffee, featuring pickup soccer games and skill exercises for all ages. Saturday mornings throughout the summer. More information at discoverygreen.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Coffee Trend, a coffee bar on the Brays Bayou Bike Trail and South Braeswood Boulevard, sourcing from other local businesses and supporting area K-12 schools and libraries. More at coffeetrendhtx.com.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Chariot Energy, offering electricity plans backed by 100% renewable energy for Texas homes and businesses. Learn more about renewable energy options at chariotenergy.com.
Support comes from Asia Society Texas, presenting Vion Sora Outer Worlds, a new exhibition featuring Sora's large-scale abstract paintings reflecting her experience living in Iraq. On view now, asiasociety.org/Texas.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Specs, celebrating the summertime heat with cold seltzers, ciders, canned cocktails, and more. Details at specs.com. Cheers to savings.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manous and guest host Maria Todd.
If you ask anyone how they feel about the divide in America today, chances are a majority might agree that Americans have never been more divided than they are now. While many might look at what's happening in the country today to explain this division, new research suggests that the answer may actually lie in the past, even as far back as before the country was even founded. Additionally, while this research may have an explanation for where American divisions originate from, it also has an idea on what continues to unite Americans, even in today's heavily divided times. To tell us more about this new research and its findings, please welcome Colin Woodard, director of the Nationhood Lab at Salve Regina University's Pell Center. Colin, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
I am fascinated by this study, and even to go back as far as to your previous research into the 11 nations and that whole concept.
Yeah.
Explain to people, because on the surface, I guess everyone would say, oh my God, as we said in the intro, no, but we've never been more divided than we are today, and it's the ruination of our nation, and we're not going to make it through this. Your reaction to just that comment?
I mean, we are very divided. The stakes are high and, things could turn out very badly, but it has been worse in the past. I mean, certainly the 1860s with the Civil War was a terrible time, followed by, the collapse of Reconstruction and all the rest. So we're not there yet, but in many respects, the stakes are, as high or higher than they were in the 1960s. And, the crisis is very real, I would say.
When you compare the time of the Civil War to today, it seems as though the Civil War got to focus on particular issues that were dividing the nation. It had to do with economy. It had to do with workforce, how things were done, how we were able to function. And so the South didn't want to give up what they used and the North was against. However, we want to look at that. Today seems so ideologically different that it doesn't matter the other aspects of it, of the practicality of it. These seem to be core soul beliefs. Is there a difference in that, and do you see that?
Well, there are some parallels, right? I mean, in the antebellum period, as in today, there's a fight over the meaning of the United States. Who are we? What's the purpose of the country? Who belongs? What's the meaning of our past? I mean, all those things are being questioned now. And in the antebellum period, the battle was over, the United States was young. It was this federation of rival colonial projects, right? The different colonies, the Puritans in New England, the Dutch commercial colony around New York City, the West Indies style, slave plantation society moved from Barbados to the deep South, the Chesapeake country with its aristocratic manor lords. All these places all found themselves in a federation together, and they needed a common story for what does it mean to be a United Statesian. And in the antebellum period, the battle really picked up because they needed an answer. or they knew the country would fall apart. And the battle was between, oh, we're a nation devoted to the vision in the Declaration of Independence, to a set of ideals, that we're a society that's going to try to create a place where all humans can be equally and sustainably free as individuals. And that was a radical idea in 1776. And it was countered by a more conventional idea, headquartered out of the Deep South's intellectuals, that said, no, humans aren't equal. We're the ethno-states of the superior Anglo-Saxon race. And all societies and all republics, back to the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans, have been societies where a small, group had the privilege or liberty to practice democracy, and subjugation and slavery was the natural lot of the many, and we're no different. That was the battle of the antebellum period. And it was a battle over defining our country in the end in blood and soil terms, or in terms of ideals and a commitment to a set of ideals. And unfortunately, that battle is occurring today as well. Those are the sub-themes at work. We're not facing a massive conflict and a civil war, but there are consistencies in history. As Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I can definitely hear the rhyming today.
In the introduction, we also talked about the fact, and we've talked about this throughout the show today, preparing for you, that it may not be as simple as we think red states, blue states. And that goes back to your 11 nation theory. And we in Texas are unique in the fact that we got a whole bunch of them at play in our one state alone. Explain what you're talking about and what it means, and then take us into the state of Texas and how it plays out with us today.
Yeah, I lived for a year and a half in Brownsville, which I can tell you is a totally different Texas than Houston's or Dallas's or Austin's, as you were talking about earlier. Because, the Texas is riven by regional cultures, so is the continent at large, and they don't necessarily respect state boundaries. It boils down in the end to differences between the rival colonial projects that formed on the eastern and southwestern rims of what's now the United States. The Puritans, like I mentioned, in New England, the Chesapeake, manorial landowners, the Spanish project that moved south to north into what's now the southwest of the United States, including southern parts of Texas up through San Antonio. These were places with different, religious, ethnographic, and ideological characteristics. And a lot of those characteristics are recognizable today. Once you know the rival settlement patterns of these different competing colonial projects, and there are almost a dozen of them, you can see at a county level, you can see those differences today in maps of all sorts of things. Election results, certainly, but also, COVID-19 death rates, life expectancy, intergenerational mobility, per capita gun violence. It goes on. And I'm always surprised the degree to which you can see those forces at work. And you see them also in Texas. I think everyone in Texas knows that Austin's the capital, but that San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas are the hubs of three very distinct Texases. And that's because each one is tied to a different ultimate settlement stream that brought a different political model in, early in the, even before Texas became a state.
So to make this a little bit about what's about to happen here in November, if you're a candidate on a statewide race, and you're trying to bring together this coalition, how do you approach that then if you've got up to 4 different ones of these nations all at play in this one state? How are you talking about things? Who are you talking to? Can you have different messages for different people? Or because of our globalization, everybody hears everything you say. How do you pinpoint your message?
Yeah, you can no longer just speak to one audience and then go say something completely different to another audience and expect to get away with it. I suppose that's the advantage of our social media system and everyone having iPhones and stuff compared to 20 years ago. The answer to that is going to be different, how you would run in Texas than you would if you were running, say, for president for the entire country. But there'll still be consistent things. The Texas is riven by 3 major regional cultures. What's common to those regional cultures and is common to most of the regional cultures in the United States is, in the end, if you ask people, what do you think the purpose of the U.S. is? What are we supposed to be doing as Americans? Where are we supposed to be going? Who belongs? That question of, is it the Declaration's definition or is it more of a blood and soil definition? Overwhelmingly, we've done tons of polling on this in all different ways. overwhelmingly Americans are for the Declaration's vision of things, regardless of party, region, gender, education levels. We asked at one point, Americans, hey, do you agree with the proposition that we as Americans are duty bound to protect one another's rights to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and so on? It came back with 97-2 support. I mean, you don't see 97-2 support in the answer to any question you ask Americans, except this one. If you ask Americans, hey, is the earth round or flat? And the Pew Research Center did at one point, it's 80-10 with 10% undecided. But, 97-2 is loaves and fishes territory. I mean, there is a broad commitment to that vision. And it doesn't matter if you're in the, Deep South or the greater New England Yankee space or greater Appalachia or any of these other historic regions that I've tracked, that part is in common. So if you're trying to build a political coalition in Texas or in the United States, almost anywhere, if you're on the side of that, if you can articulate a message as to how what you're promoting is promoting the creation of this society where individual humans can all be equally and sustainably free over time. In other words, you are doing something that's going to achieve the vision and the Declaration. You're on pretty good ground, and chances are your opponent probably hasn't thought to do that. But I'd say that is the sort of secret hack if you're a politician and you want to create an actual movement with broad-based support rather than just try to, dissect yourself into a plurality win by doubling down on one group. If you really want to build a coalition, that's the way to go, and it's going to work in almost all the regions and parts of the country.
Let me ask this question then. When you talk about these belief systems, these patterns of behavior, I don't want to put words in your mouth, of these 11 different nations that we come out of, these historical backgrounds of 400 years and getting us to this point, we've carried these thoughts and these feelings forward through it. Does it matter ugly rhetoric being said by candidates at the top of a ticket or a national leader saying things? Aren't those just momentary blips then in a longer understanding of who we are? If these other ideals have held true for 400 years, can someone today at a bully pulpit really alter that?
Well, I mean, that's my career began in Eastern Europe and the Balkans, where all these issues were, after the collapse of communism, were right there, ethnic conflict, people telling big lies to get people to do terrible things, covering the aftermath in Bosnia. So I can tell you firsthand that, leaders with ill intent the public opinion can be very plastic. You can, if you're charismatic enough, move large numbers of people to do things that, would seem unimaginable over the course of several years. If you're concentrated in what you're doing and have sort of an apparatus around it, people are flexible and movable. That's what political leadership is about, is trying to lead people to a good place. Mm-hmm. There are also leaders throughout history, demagogues who can lead people to a very bad place. So yeah, I think it matters a lot. It's always mattered through human history. It matters today. However, if you are arguing against the Declaration, if you're making an argument that some people with the right bloodlines and ancestors somehow are more American than others, you are at a distinct structural disadvantage because the country's traditions and ideologies are against that. You're climbing an uphill, but somebody needs to be defending those traditions, or you can still get to the top of the hill anyway. And that's been our weakness, is sort of Americans have been a little bit asleep at the wheel, complacent, assuming that our democratic traditions are fine because they've been around for a long time. They haven't been around that long, right? We've only been a liberal democracy, small L, small d, a Western democracy, since the 1960s, right? Before that, we had a race-based apartheid system in a huge swath of our country. That was not a liberal democracy. So it's young. It's within living memory. So the traditions aren't that old. The fight over those traditions goes back 250 years, but it's all much more fragile than people realize. It's people realizing it's fragile and fighting for it is what will ensure that the American experiment continues. Just not be complacent. This stuff doesn't defend itself.
Colin, thank you very much for that and for joining us. I hope you'll come back again and we can talk more about all of this, especially as we get closer into November. I'd love to get your point of view on where we go from here and how we message. It seems as though if they tout the Declaration of Independence, most people will support them.
Yeah.
You're on good, firm ground.
Colin Woodard is the director of the Nationhood Lab at the Salve Regina University Pell Center. Again, thank you for joining us. That brings us to the end of the show, Maria. You're free.
No.
Yes, you get to go away. You don't have to be here tomorrow, unless you want to come back.
You'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised who's going to show up. But we want you all to come back and join us. Remember, it's Thursday, so we'll be doing our current obsessions tomorrow. So start sharing those with us right now. You can email them, talk@hellohouston.org. I'll see you back here tomorrow. This is Hello Houston.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Metro. World Cup planning includes transit improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match. Metro provides bus, rail, and paratransit service and continues mobility enhancements across the region. More at ridemetro.org.